Hello and welcome to Daily Politics, reaching you from Trust TV here in Abuja. I am Suleiman. Let me start today with a question. Which president has made the most foreign trips in Nigeria's history? How many trips did he make and how many countries did he visit? If you stay on the show, I'll be giving you the answers very soon. Today we're discussing President Buhari's foreign trips, an issue that has come back to the front line of public discussion following the president's visit to Dubai Expo 2021 last week. By the end of his first time in May 2019, President Buhari had completed 65 trips to 33 countries. The first of those trips was to Niamey in Niger Republic on 3rd June 2015, just 4 days after being sworn in. During that visit, the president went to discuss the Boko Haram situation. Today, with less than just 18 months in office, the count of how many trips the president has made abroad is still going on. But we know that so far, he has spent 313 days away from Nigeria on official visits. That's approximately 1 year on official visit. And this figure excludes his travels for medical purposes. So we are asking, is there anything wrong with the president having official trips abroad? And how much can Nigeria gain from the president's official trips abroad? But also, how much does it cost the taxpayer? I am being joined in this discussion by Ahmed Sajo, a Commissioner of Information in Adamawa State, and Dr. Theophilus Abba, Head of Program at the Daily Trust Foundation. Welcome to Daily Politics, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
sir.
But before we start the discussion proper, we'll take a minute to bring you a roundup of politics in the news. Please stay with us.
Following the news of the federal government's plan to increase fuel pump price to 340 naira, the Nigerian Labour Congress has vowed to grant economic activities across the country, adding that it has started mobilization of its members for the showdown. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the 17th NLC Hamilton School in Ilorin, Kwara State, the NLC President Ayuba Wava vowed that Labour would resist the attempt by the government to increase the fuel pump price without making adequate arrangements to cushion the effect. He contended that if the government succeeds in the plan, the impact of the price hike will affect everyone in Nigeria. Waba lamented that out of the OPEC member countries, it was only Nigeria that was following the International Monetary Fund policies, which he described as neoliberal. According to him, the concept of accepting deregulation hook, line and sinker anchored on import-driven price model is not something that can be acceptable. The National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party has affirmed the expulsion of 15 members in Kebbi State by the Kebbi State chapter of the party. The party disclosed this in a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Kola Ologbodiyan, in Abuja. The party said that the expulsion was sequel to the decision of the state chapter in ratification by the NWC in line with the provision of the PDP Constitution 2017 as amended. It urged all PDP members in Kebbi State to remain calm, united and focused and not allow any agent of destabilization to derail the party in the collective quest to rescue the state as well as the nation. The Bauchi State House of Assembly has accused the State Commissioner for Education, Dr. Aliyu Tilde, of disrespect. Subsequently, the lawmakers passed a vote of no confidence on him and withdrew his confirmation. The House earlier confirmed his nomination as Commissioner based on a request by the State Governor, Bala Muhammad. The withdrawal of the confirmation was sequel to the adoption of a motion moved by the Chairman House Committee on Education, Babayo Muhammad, member representing Hardawa constituency, on the matters of urgent public importance during Monday's plenary. He explained that although the Commissioner was late for the hearing, he was granted all courtesies, but he responded with uncomplimentary remarks while addressing committee members.
Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics, where we discuss issues concerned with politics, policy and governance in Nigeria and the rest of the world. And today we are discussing the significance of the president's travels abroad. And so far we said, Maila Ahmed, that the president has had, he had more than 65 trips in his first 4 years in office. The frequency of those trips have not reduced, and people are saying that he's had, some people who are counting this are saying he's had more than 100 trips or so since in the past getting to 7 years now. So the question is, what does all these trips mean for Nigeria, and what does it mean for the government itself?
Yeah, I think we must appreciate certain things.
Yes.
One of them is the fact that the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or the president of any country, is the chief public relations officer of his government and his country. He is the chief marketing officer of his government and his country. He is the chief promoter of his government, and he's the #1 diplomat.
Okay.
Within the context of his government. And so, to that extent, it behoves the president to move out and promote his government, promote his country, sell his government, sell the potentials of his country, and try to see if he can convince a lot of more people to have respect and for the government, to believe in the policies of the government that can promote, say, like foreign direct investment or development partnership. And so the president, to a large extent, does this. But in most cases, when the president has a very strong voice within the government that is in charge of diplomacy, like at the level of the foreign affairs minister or the ministers responsible for foreign affairs, if they are very strong, they reduce the need for the president to do most of the interface himself.
Okay.
And secondly, and most importantly, is that the president and the leaders of the country must appreciate the fact that no matter how much you try to sell your country externally, your domestic stability, your economic prosperity is the first measure of the respect you get outside. So if the president makes his entire tenure a foreign trip tenure, if he does not, create a strong economic base at the domestic level and a very good stable country in terms of policies that foreigners who come to Nigeria can rely on, not a situation where you go outside and you paint a very rosy picture of a country that has a lot of potentials for development, that has a lot of potentials for investment, and then that you have a policy of ease of doing business and all that, and then the first thing a person comes in to sign one particular paper, some civil servants or some political office will frustrate what you are doing, or like we have in the mining sector, for example. For you to mine our minerals anywhere in the country, you need a license from the federal government. But when you pick that license, it does not in any way, exonerate the fact that the land upon which the minerals are is controlled by the constitution, by the state government and traditional rulers and the rest. So you may not know this. As far as you are concerned, you've been told by the leadership of the country that when you come, we will give you license expressly. You come, you identify the minerals, you get the license expressly from Abuja. Then when you go there, one district head will tell you that, look, my friend, this is our land. Ancestral land. So all of these things, I think we should get it first very well, where, at home. Then we can go externally and do whatever marketing we are going to do. That's my own feeling.
Thank you. So even with Dr. Abba, even with the fact that the president is his own #1 chief marketer, his own #1 diplomat, his own #1 chief PR officer, do you need 65 trips in 4 years. If we multiply that, we're talking about 130 trips in 8 years. Do you need all of that to do whatever it is that you think that a foreign trip will make you do?
Well, I want to build on what Honorable Sajo has started by saying. To me, I mean, it's a personal opinion. Yes. It's not the number of trips that really matter, but what you achieve from these trips. In the early days of Obasanjo as president in 1999, early 2000, he made multiple trips. You had Sule Lamido as foreign minister, but Obasanjo also was engaged in trips. And Obasanjo's activities reintegrated Nigeria among the Committee of Nations. And one of the cardinal achievements was the debt relief for Nigeria.
Okay.
Now, no matter, I mean, how you assess Obasanjo's administration, that singular impact, that singular achievement, removed a lot of burden from Nigerians. So, if Obasanjo made 65 trips, but achieved debt relief, it's a great achievement.
Okay.
There was an image that I have not forgotten of Trump. Trump visited Saudi Arabia, and at that visit, he was able to, sign a contract of about
$900 and something billion
dollars, in arms with Saudi Arabia. That was a very good achievement. So if he went, on 65 trips to get this kind of business for Saudi Arabia, I don't think it is wrong. Now, my major concern is that, you see, when the trips don't connect with domestic issues, and that is why I say I'm building on what he has said. You see, for instance, when he went to UAE, that expo, Dubai Expo, we're talking about meeting of 190 world leaders in order to know how to build a better world for everyone. And in Nigeria, there is no concerted effort to build a better world for everyone. In Nigeria, a whole lot of things are happening. There is insurgency, there is insecurity, the education system is down, the economy is down. After exploring oil for more than 50 years, we are talking about removing oil subsidy because the system never worked. There is disparity, wide disparity between the few persons who are in government and the larger majority of Nigerians. So the world is not being better for Nigerians. So what are you going to discuss at the international level?
But Honorable Hamad, there's a confusion, Honorable Sajo. There's confusion here now. We're saying that in order for the president to get much from his foreign trips, the Nigerian situation has first to become better. But in order for the Nigerian situation to be better, he may also need to travel. How do you resolve that vicious cycle?
I think.
Okay.
I think
as in, doesn't he need to travel in order to get the country better?
Are valuable to some extent, and I will tell you why they are valuable. There are people who have lost so much confidence in governments of Africa, to the extent that if they are not dealing with the man at the top, they don't feel comfortable.
Okay. Across the world.
No doubt about that. Yes, across the world, because in many cases we have had histories of our officials going outside to sign agreements that when they come back home, their bosses reject those agreements. It has happened a lot.
Yes.
So for us to maybe get the kind of advantage we needed, with the man at the top, where the buck stops, must be there. But if you look at it in quantum, what my brother is saying, and I will tell you that for every public relations engagement you undertake or marketing engagement, there's always a central goal. All of these things I am doing, if Mr. President is going with respect to, mitigating the security situation we have in the country, then let us quantify the trips within the context of whether there is a mitigation in the security situation or there is an escalation.
Very interesting.
If there is no mitigation, then the trips have not paid off. You know, no doubt about it. Or is it foreign direct investment? How many companies, you know, that have been closed down in the country, that these trips were able to open? He raised another issue. The president had advocated of recent that the foreign powers should cancel debt owed Africa, Nigeria inclusive. How much of that debt had been cancelled as a result of the foreign engagement you know, our president is having with others outside? So within the context of the goals of these trips, you know, there's a need to begin to do an introspection and to begin to do an evaluation of all the trips within the context of the goals and the objectives of the trips. And that is our major concern as a country.
Thank you. So beyond the cost-benefit analysis from which Honorable Sajo is looking at it, which is important because you know, traveling, your performance has to be matched against the initial objectives in the first place to be able to say that whether you have gained anything out of it. But beyond that, there's also the historical and cultural dimensions of all this. So, you know, some people say that Africans or African leaders can't just stop travel because mentally they just see that the solution to Africa's problems lie outside of Africa rather than looking inward and thinking of how to solve the, you know, use resources and mobilize resources within to solve problems. How does that come into play in this situation?
Well, I think that sounds like stereotyping.
Okay.
Although we have a lot of evidence, you know, to support that argument, but it's just a supposition, you know. But I will support a president who stays back and tackles, you know, the challenges facing the country rather than, traveling from one part of the world to another, and in order to, you know, to be part of meetings, to belong to meetings, you know, to meet friends and all this. I'll give you an example. I don't think Putin, the Russian president, travels so many times. But if you will see the Russian president either in the Middle East or in any part of Europe or in any part of Asia, he's returning home with a great deal, you know. And I'm thinking that, you see, if as president of Nigeria, you know, we have that at the back of our mind. You know, if the president will go out to negotiate deals that will actually, like Honorable said, that will see the impact in Nigeria. For instance, look at COP26 in Glasgow.
Okay.
Now, the president went to discuss climate change, effect of climate change, and all this on the effect of gas flaring and all this on the world. You know, he went for a conference on climate change, and I don't think he advanced the case of Nigeria in such a manner that we expected him to have done so. Okay. The farmer-herders conflict is a byproduct of climate change.
Yes.
You know, the kind of migration that is taking place from the Sahel region into Nigeria, leading to pressure on land in Nigeria, is a byproduct of climate change. But you see, we didn't hear this argument being advanced. Rather, we are hearing about credit tax or whatever you call it, that if you reduce carbon emission in your country, if you mitigate it, they're going to get some support from this guy. You see, that is not the way I expect the president to have tackled the issue of climate change, because everybody sees Nigeria as a conflict.
And we really need to push that angle a little bit. Maybe that connects to the competence of the backroom staff that you mentioned earlier, you know, the Ministry of, not just even the Minister of Foreign Affairs, but the more permanent staff who are in the Ministry of, do you see that as their problem? Because the idea that climate change is central to the farmer-herders crisis, and maybe even other crises in the northwest and the north parts of the north central, is something the rest of the world knows, but which, interestingly, we in Nigeria don't even know enough of, and which the president could have advanced in a global conference or in a global summit on climate change, but which didn't happen.
But let me tell you.
Yes.
You spoke about the president's first trip on the 3rd of June.
Yes.
Immediately he was sworn in. The issue then, which is the issue today,
yes,
was that the receding of the Lake Chad itself, the waters of the Lake Chad, the receding of the Lake Chad had impacted on about 30 million lives. Serious. And that there is a need to recharge the lake from a river in the Congo, rechanneled right through Cameroon, right through Central Africa, Cameroon, Nigeria, and into Lake Chad. That was one issue that the president was told to table, before the international community. And it was tabled as far as the United Nations. But till this minute that I am talking to you, we've not achieved that. And so we've gone, spoken at all fora. Even if at the climate change, that was the only issue that Nigeria had put on table.
It would have been worth it.
It would have been worth it. You understand? Now again, look at, we're talking about gas flaring and the rest. But look at desertification. Something we could tackle very easily. It's also a product of
climate change.
Look at flooding, annual flooding that we're faced with. Even in areas where there were no flooding in Nigeria, these are all issues that have to do with climate change. If the West is going to COP26 to discuss industrialization and the role of industry, we are looking at the role of the elements. We are the basic. And that argument has not been properly advanced by Nigeria. Yes, it could be that the backroom staff, as you call them, were not very ingenious in advancing the case of Nigeria. But the president, as the #1 diplomat and the chief spokesman of the people, should have looked at our country
and his own agenda
and looked at his own agenda and advanced something that is attainable. If he had come back with a deal that promotes a green policy for the desert lands of northern Nigeria,
yes,
that would have reduced the migration of herders, and that would have reduced our conflict and things like that. If we had, for example, looked at climate change within the context of reforestation, which are some of the simplest and cheapest things we could achieve. Or if we could look at it within the context of utilization of water resources. We're in a country where more than 60% of the people do not have access to potable water. And we have a lot of surface water that gets waste every year.
Exactly.
And we have not harnessed it. If that was the only deal we were able to make at the climate change, how do we harness our surface water so that it could be used for ecotourism, could be used for irrigation, it could be used for domestic consumption, it could be used for aquaculture, it could be used for transport and all of that. So we need to, our external engagement, and I laid this as a foundation.
Okay.
Our external engagement should be within the realm of our domestic prosperity.
Okay.
If it's outside that, then we're not getting it right.
Thank you. So before we just before we go on break, he's been speaking about at one level to which we can say cost. We go to international events with the wrong issues and come home empty-handed. But there isn't it, but in most cases. But there's also the another dimension of the cost. This time, the cost in naira and kobo to the taxpayer, the person, to the public purse, isn't it? You have situation where, for example, in the latest trip that has sparked all this debate all over again, the president went with 10 ministers and several other members of his cabinet, all the top security chiefs and so on, to an expo in Dubai. That people are saying that maybe even some big companies will just send a mid-level representative to go and watch what might be new, because it's actually an annual expo. Anything that is annual, of that kind, So, is there a cost to Nigeria in having a large retinue of officials traveling at the same time? And what does that mean to the country?
Well, I was thinking that Buhari will be an exception in doing what happened in Dubai. Because we had accusations against previous president, of traveling about with larger than any other delegation from any other country. We've had those cases and all this. And so, the cost implication, is of concern. I think SERAP is even dragging the president to court. Over 26 billion, being planned for travels and domestic expenses in the presidency in Aso Rock in 2022. SERAP has gone to court over that issue. It's a whole lot of cost benefit must be put into consideration when some of these trips are being made. These ministers, they have their aides that will go with them. All of them take Estaco at a time when the country is in recession, maybe not in recession,
borrowing to fund budget.
Borrowing to fund budget. 98% of domestic revenue goes into debt servicing, and then you are going to Dubai with so many ministers, and then if you look at the benefit of such trips, if you put the cost and the benefits together, it will go in the negative. So the cost is definitely too high. I don't know exactly how much a minister takes as Estaco. I don't know how much their aides take. I don't know how much the security chiefs take as Estaco. But then if you look at what we face in the country today, if you look at the lamentation, the cost of food, the cost of things that have gone up, I was thinking that, such funds can be used to help, to cushion the effect of the current inflation in some other sectors. Because, I don't have the detail, but SERAP has tabulated $26 billion. I don't think
In terms of what?
In terms of travels and domestic expenditure in the presidency. 26 billion. That is a whole lot of money.
That's approximately 1 year's entire budget for Nigeria.
Yeah,
26 billion years.
No, it's not. It's 26 billion naira, not US dollars.
Okay, billion naira.
Yeah, it's naira, not in US dollars. So there are some agencies of government who don't have such a amount of money voted for them to use for their operations.
Certainly.
There are things that we can use this money for, and I am feeling that. You see, we must take into consideration the fact that Nigeria is facing a very tough situation. I think we just completed a training in the financial sector. We did that one last week. And we're looking at some of the expenses, some of the ways that Nigeria's money is being wasted. I discovered that, look, there are other ways of reducing this expenditure. There are other ways. And one of them is reducing these foreign trips, because at the end of it, your ministers will be happy that they are getting Estaco. Their aides will be happy that they are getting Estaco.
Yes.
And you think that because their aides are happy, because you think your ministers are happy, you also will be happy. But Nigerians are not, reaping the benefit of this. It's a waste of resources, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. So, that's interesting. When we come back from a short break, we'll be looking at other dimensions of this issue. For example, the moral dimension, given the fact that the president has himself criticized this kind of things before. Is there a moral implication personally to him? But also, how can we solve these problems going forward? Because these are issues that have been with us for quite a long time. But all of that when we return from a short break. If you're just joining us, this is Daily Politics. When we return, we'll continue our discussion on President Buhari's foreign trips. Stay with us. Welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and you can follow us on all our social media platforms, on YouTube, on Instagram, and of course on Facebook. Before we went on break, we were discussing the possibility of the fact that, you know, the president himself, in fact, there was a time he said, and all Nigerians had this, that he would sell off all but one of the aircraft in the presidential fleet. Whatever he meant by that statement, one of them was that it indicates that he was averse to too many foreign travels that didn't yield many, because the idea of these foreign travels have been with us a long time. Even during the Obasanjo, you know, there was this criticisms. So is there a personal moral dimension to this issue for President Buhari specifically, given his previous criticisms of former presidents on this same issue?
I think I hate speculations. Okay. If there are moral, you do not have a moral compass to measure somebody's level of morality. Okay. But I'm looking at it very realistically. I'm a communicator. And I know that whether taxpayers' money is involved or not, a government has certain moral and social obligations towards the governed.
Yes.
How many times, I'm a communicator, and I'm asking you too as a communicator.
Yes.
How many times has the president returned from a trip abroad and the retinue of persons he goes with come and face the Nigerian public and say, we're just coming back from a trip abroad. These are the major takeaways, you know, for us at this foreign trip that we have just come back from. And that we're giving you...
sometimes they do mention that the international community gets more confidence in Nigeria. For example, in terms of having listed Nigeria first, in this religious blacklist. Now Nigeria has been removed from there. Second, they would say that this agency in the US that, you know, gives, they do ratings for countries, you know, the extent to which other countries can give debts to, you know, loans to another country. So can they name some of these things as part of...
They can. They can. Okay. Look, even the election of Nigerians into exalted positions at the international level, yes, it's definitely a plus for our country. The ability to purchase arms and use it to fight banditry and insurgency is also good. But what I am saying is that can you, even as you are here, as a repository of day-to-day activities of government, as a recorder of history, because the media is the most veritable recorder of history on daily basis, not the historian in the university or but you in the media. Can you come up with a chronological rundown of major takeaways from each of the trips as they happen? What I am saying is that if you notice, you know, as soon as the presidents of other countries, including Russia that you mentioned, as soon as they move out and come back, their foreign ministry and their spokesperson face the nation, not issue statement, but face the nation and say, look, we were out there for this purpose. this is how much we were able to gather from what we had gone to do. You know, the basket is always there. You could easily notice what came back in the basket. Not like you went out with a basket with the intention of fetching water and naturally the basket comes back empty. This is where the basket gets goods and you bring it back and you show to the family and the family claps for you.
Yes.
This is what I am talking about. Our backstage participants in the process, apart from collecting if the president goes with 10 ministers, it presupposes that there were benefits drivable in 10 different departmental
of
areas.
government. Yes.
So, and somehow, either in summary or each of the departments
should be
says,
itemizable.
this is what
ABCD. Yes.
You can hold me to it. If it is something that matures within a period, we say, look, within the next 2 to 3 years,
we're expecting
this to mature. You can monitor. You know, we are in a digital age. If you cargo your goods from Dubai to Nigeria, they give you a code. If it is coming on the high seas, you can track it. How can we track some of this? Yes. I'm just saying, if you go with the Minister of Environment, for example, at a forum, we are expecting that when immediately the Minister of Environment comes back, he tells us what happens to desertification, what happens to flooding, what have we gained out of it. If you go out with the minister, if you go on a trip with the Minister of Agriculture, he comes back and he tells you, look, we have realized the dangers of the farmer-herder clash. It's creating problems for us in terms of food production and protein requirements.
Yes.
These are the mitigating steps that we are taking in connection with. I give you an example. The president is very quick to mention the conflict in Libya as a source of arms.
Yes.
The conflict in Mali as a source of migratory rampaging transhumans herders into Nigeria. It's always good to say all those things. Now, when you go at an international forum where Malians, Libyans, and their backers internationally, because the world is a global. What discussions had happened? What do we expect to be done differently from what was done before? We're not, whether there is a moral issue in it or not, that is left to the president. But the main issue is what is in it for the people of this country. If he likes, if he thinks he can run this country from another country, but at the end of the day, you walk into the market, you can afford to buy food, you can afford to buy clothes for I mean, you know, so the bottom line is, for us, the bottom line is, let the pot be full, so that we don't sleep with hunger.
So, thank you very much. Dr. Abba, there is also the argument, or the other side of the story, that there is too much focus on the president and his travels, that there are other levels of governments and personnel in other levels of government that also travel. For example, the National Assembly members, they all travel all the time on behalf of Nigeria, on behalf of various functions, you know, official visits. Also governors, and even the COP26 in Glasgow, there were many state governments and state contingents that, you know, took money from their own state governments and sponsored people, or even they themselves went there, you know, and so on. So what about these other ones? Are we focusing too much on the federal government or on the presidency without looking at other areas where the same thing is happening with little to show for them?
Well, I think the major motivation for some of these trips by government officials at whatever level is the obstacle. Rather than I mean, what they go there to do. You know, at times, an SA follows, you know, a governor to a foreign trip, and all he goes there to do is to say, okay, the governor is resting now. Then we do sightseeing, and then he gets an extra commute. So it's some thousands of dollars. You know, I think the major motivation for some of these politicians or government officials who travel is not exactly what they are going to contribute to the development of the country. It's actually what they can get from the national treasury. You know, one of my friends who worked in the ministry was telling me that, look, you see, in their ministry, the accounts department, they had a lot of staff members who had traveled, you know, whose estaco could not be paid because the demand, you know, on the ministry was too much, you know, and they were waiting for, and they were queuing up. Okay, this man's estaco will be paid today. Tomorrow your own will be paid. Next tomorrow your own will be paid. So the pressure, you know, on the treasury, you know, is so much. It's not really because of what they are going to deliver, not because of what they want to achieve. It's just because they know that if you travel out of Nigeria, let's assume your estaco is maybe $500 in a day, or maybe $1,000 in a day. You spend 5 days, you got $5,000. You spend 10 days, you got $10,000. By the time you return to Nigeria, you buy a car.
Yes.
You know, you build a house, you know, you buy land and all this. That is the motivation behind it. Now, you see, one of my friends was saying that this government has become a government of future tense. Okay. We will, we shall, we shall. That is what you keep hearing the government doing. And I'm thinking that it is now time for what Honorable Sajo is saying. You know, that we want to see those who are at the back end of this government telling Nigerians that these are the things that these foreign trips have achieved. We are not just here to say, oh, the president should not go on foreign trips, but we want to see the benefits. Yes. What are the benefits of these foreign trips? I think people like Madam Garba Shehu, or those who work with him, can sit down and say, look, let's tell Nigerians what we have benefited from these foreign trips. You will be very glad to hear that these benefits have come in terms of Naira and Kubu, in terms of development, in terms of investment. One of the saddest experience I had recently was a data I saw online that said that in 2014, Nigeria was number 2 as an investment destination in Africa. But as of today, it's not among the first 10. You know, it was very sad. But I now start to say, okay, why will it be so? And I thought about all the problems we are facing in this country today. You know, facing a lot of challenges, and I'm imagining how would the president travel out of this country to talk to maybe those interested in investing in agriculture to come to Nigeria when this farmer herders conflict makes it really difficult for even domestic farming, domestic agriculture to thrive. How would the president, ask people who are interested in investing in the oil and gas sector to come in, where we know that the bottlenecks, you know, where we know that the legal the framework, where we know that so many challenges, you know, environmental issues are there which are not tackled. You know, so those are the reasons why I say perhaps that data may be credible. Okay. But if Nigeria was number 2 in 2014 and drops out of the first 10 countries for investment in 2021, you know, as at 2020, it means that these foreign trips have not really brought the kind of desired results.
It may probably even mean maybe things are even getting worse. But enough of the problems. What about the solutions?
The solution.
What can we do?
The solution number one is that the level of preparations. I have traveled as a government official once or twice.
Okay.
The level of preparation, you know, for a foreign trip in Nigeria is one of the worst. You know, the basic requirements when you're traveling abroad is first you identify exactly the purpose for the trip, and then you conduct a research. If you're meeting people, you even conduct a background, you know,
on those people that you are meeting. What are their interests? Yes,
exactly. You do a research on the areas you're talking about, and when you go, you're making a robust presentation from the point of knowledge. From my experience as an individual,
yes,
I have gone out with Nigerian officials who can spend the whole day around the table without uttering a word. If they sit, that is, if the chief executive who is at the head of the delegation is still seated around the table, If the chief executive moves 1 minute out of that table, every other person had gone for some other activity other than what they went there. Then when the discussion comes...
So it's as good as if they were not there in the first place.
Exactly. When the discussion comes, and the discussion is around issues, facts, data, statistics, you will discover that the Nigerian delegation goes there empty. Then there is this joke about Nigeria that a lot of people see it as an international joke, but I have also been a witness. You know, they will tell you internationally that there was a time a Nigerian delegation went to New York to negotiate debt cancellation. And 5 members of the Nigerian delegation went for that meeting. Each one of them hired a limo and took the limo and asked the limo to wait for them. The people they were to discuss with were 3. They came in one taxi, asked the taxi to go away.
So that they can...
So that they, when they are ready, they will call
take another taxi.
They will take another taxi.
In other words...
And when they came and they noticed the extravagance of the Nigerian delegation, they did not even discuss debt cancellation because they said you don't need it, you don't deserve it. You know. So what I'm trying to tell you is that we go with some level of arrogance. Our delegation is usually very noisy abroad. You could notice the delegation in terms of its character, it's
and flamboyance.
It's unique. But when it comes to the stuff of why we're all there, you discover that we are mostly very empty. Because imagine what the example he was giving you. The people in the accounts department are the ones that are owing Estacode. Most likely that the account department is a service department.
Yes.
It's not at the core of the activities of the office. So if you must put an account person, put an admin person,
it means you are not going there to
you are just trying to please everyone within the structures of the ministry. And the core persons who may have the knowledge and the wherewithal to go and make contributions, you are not including them on the team. So the team goes there, and the team knows that they have actually gone for some tourism purposes other than the real purpose for which they... So the preparation must be made in such a way that we have a solid document to go with. That's one.
Okay.
2, we must develop a goal and objectives for every trip we are going outside. And those goals and objectives must be measurable. Mark my word, they must be measurable. Because most of the times, if you go with a goal that is not measurable, you will come back with a result.
Platitudes and words that are sweet, but which don't amount to anything
Then
on the ground.
Thirdly, we must begin to rank our foreign trips.
Yes.
Which are the ones that require the man himself? Which are the ones that require the other diplomatic cadres from the foreign minister down? Which are the ones that require certain other personnel of government? It doesn't matter who goes out. If the right person goes for the right engagement, he will come back with some result.
Thank you. So because we're just about, as a final word, Dr. Abba, he's given very interesting and very important and practicable solutions to this. First, people must be prepared for the particular trip they are going for, and they must prepare, you know, in with facts and figures that they are going to present, and the right people have to go. Second, we have to have objectives that are measurable, you know, and third, we must rank these trips in a way that we know which one the main person will be there and so on. Is it possible, as a final word, to legislate on the same things that he has said, as for example, as an act of the National Assembly, to put that in law, as you know?
I don't think you need a legal framework to achieve this. I think it's the matter of the priorities of government, a matter of the faculty that you have available in government. You know, I don't think you need any legal legal instrument, you know, to be able to achieve it. You know, because I know if you encounter some of those in government, many of them know what to do, you know, but they just don't do what they know. So that is the challenge.
Thank you. So thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show, and we're hoping to have you again for another robust discussion on issues of politics.
Any day, anytime.
Thank you very much. On issues of politics or policy and governance, as we discuss on Daily Politics here at Trust TV. This is where we come to the end of the program. But before I go, here are the answers to my earlier questions to you. President Olusegun Obasanjo, he made a total of 103 trips and visited 97 countries as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria from 1999 to 2001 in just 2 years. Thank you for staying with us, and do join us again same time for another edition of Daily Politics. I am Suleiman Suleiman. Enjoy the rest of your day.